So in my last few videos, I've been doing videos on my clocks and my barometers. So I have 3 sets now, 3 ship's clocks and 3 barometers. And so in my last video, I showed these new ones that I got. So this is the ship's clock, ship's bells, as it's called. And this is a Howard Miller clock, who was a clockmaker. He studied in Germany, and so I've had some conflicting information about Howard Miller. I think his dad's name was Herman Miller, and he had a furniture store and manufacturer, and he also made clocks. So Howard went to Germany, studied clockmaking, and so this clock was made in Germany and by Howard Miller. And the information I got was the company had been around since the 1920s, and I think it might still be around, but in the 1970s is the latest thing that I found out was when these clocks were made, these ship's clocks. And so from 1970 to 1979, which is kind of cool because this boat's in 1975, so we'll be right in time with the timeline of the boat here when it was built. And so it's not running. It runs a little bit and then it stops, and then it runs a little bit. I can kind of shake it and get it to run, and it'll run a little bit for a while and it'll stop. And but the ship's bells work. It rings. So when you hit every 30 minutes it rings. And so it'll ring between 1 and 8 chimes. And I think what that is that like every 4 hours they change, like it's typical to change watch on a boat. I know a lot of couples that sail around the world. One will be on watch for 4 hours, the other one will try to get sleep for 4 hours, and then they switch. So every 4 hours. And so that's kind of what the ship's bells are about. So I think it counts out every 4 hours is how it works out. Since it's not running, I'm going to go ahead and take it apart. I think I know what's wrong with it. I think that the brass plate that the gears are attached to is wearing out, and there's no bearings or shims or anything like that on the brass plate in the back. It's just brass gears on a brass plate with a hole in them for the gears, and so the brass plate will start to wear out, and then the gears get sloppy, and then that'll cause the clock to run intermittently. And the only other possibility is maybe something like a little bug crawled in there or something that might have been causing the problem, which I'm pretty sure it's not that. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking this apart now and see if it looks like the back plate is starting to wear out. So there's 3 screws here on the face plate. I'm going to have to remove the hands too. The bells don't chime unless it's upright. Nice sound. Sounds like a real ship's bell. That's what's really cool about it. So I got to take the hands off. Got to be real careful with that. And I can't lose these parts. So have to be real careful with that. Okay, there's the big hand. There it goes. Okay, small hand. Okay, we're good now. Now I can go ahead and take the faceplate off. Okay, here's the faceplate. Oh yeah, there it goes. It's coming out. It's coming out. So hopefully I can get this to come out of here. Hopefully. Something's hanging up. It's not coming out. Oh, wait a minute. It's coming. It's just a matter of wiggling it out properly. It's just going to have to be real careful in pulling this out. Just real careful. I heard something just fall. Oh, it's a hammer. Okay, so there's the gong. There's the chime in the back. It's that coil there. And this hammer strikes it, and that's what makes the sound. So now this don't look too bad. Yeah, this looks. Somebody's worked on this clock. It looks like because it looks like they put in some shims in here, little brass shims that look like they were added in to fix that problem where it's loose. So it may just be a matter of cleaning and oiling it. Yeah, so it's getting dark now, so I'm going to have to stop. But yeah, this looks actually really good. It's starting to run again. Wow, that was weird. I could have swore I saw a ruby as a bearing on the back of this, but I don't see it now. That was really weird. Is that what I heard fall? Huh, that was weird. This actually looks really good in the back here. I don't really see any slop. Everything looks pretty tight. Even the winders, everything. So I think it may just be a matter of cleaning it and oiling it to get it to keep running, because it's not wanting to keep running. It's getting dark out here. So yeah, the clock is, it looks like 1976. It was built in 1976. This boat was built in 1975. So yeah, it was almost the same age, and pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for tonight. I can't see too well. It's dark, getting too dark. And I may do some work on it inside the boat here later. And if I do, I'll film it. So anyway, that's it for today. I started this video 2 weeks ago, and last week I was sick, so I wasn't able to post it. I was just too sick to even work on this thing. But what I did is definitely not what a clock person that works on clocks would do. I couldn't get this thing to run. I mean, it was just run. Actually, I got it to run for a whole day, 24 hours probably. And then little by little, it was running less and less. And so what I figured it probably just needed cleaning and oiling. But I thought maybe the gears and the pivot plate, I assumed, was probably pretty wore out. So this is that plate here in the back that's got all the gears, or some of the gears go through this plate here, and they work to hold the gears into place. So I thought, okay, I can't get this thing to work. It got down to the point where it was running maybe for about 10 seconds, and then it'd stop, and I'd get it going again. It'd run for about 10 seconds, and it'd stop. So I was planning on taking the whole thing apart, and that was going to be last week's video. I figured I'll just go ahead and just take it all apart, clean it, oil it, look for damage, and put it back together. And as I was looking at it, I noticed there really wasn't any wear. It looks really good. And so I decided I'm just going to oil a few things, and I didn't have clock oil. I happened to have some other oil that I tried to use. I figured, well, I'll give it a try and see if it makes a difference. And so I put some oil on here, and it was compressor oil, and it didn't really do anything, didn't make any difference. So then I had some of this dry oil. I've never used it before, so it's dry oil. It's called dry oil. It's in a spray can. And I thought, I only paid $59 for this clock and the barometer. Normally they'd be a lot more expensive. So I got a really, really good deal. So I thought, well, I really don't want to take this thing apart, because I'm hearing that these ship's bells, as this clock is called, people who work on clocks hate working on them because there's so many parts to them. And when you go to put them back together, if you don't get it right, the bell won't ring properly. And so I thought, I'm going to try something. This is crazy. I know it's nuts. You're not supposed to do this. I don't recommend doing it ever. But I sprayed it with this dry oil to see if that would make a difference. And I sprayed everywhere. I sprayed inside. I sprayed the whole thing. I mean, I just soaked it. And that didn't make any difference. So then I'm thinking, okay, hang on. I'm going to try one more thing to see if I can make this thing at least run a little bit longer than 10 seconds. Because I want to know if it's just something that's gummed up. I can always take it all apart and clean it and redo it. And I did something that you never should do, is use penetrating oil. So I sprayed penetrating oil on some of the parts, and that didn't make any difference at all. Nothing. So then I thought, I really need to get all this oil off of here. So what I did was I got a container, and it was just one of these types of containers that I bought at the store. And I bought about 3 bottles of isopropyl alcohol, and I filled up one of these containers with isopropyl alcohol, and I submerged this thing in the alcohol, thinking, okay, well, hopefully this will clean all the oil and everything off of it, so I don't have to take it all apart, and I can go from there. So I went ahead and soaked it, and while it was submerged in the alcohol, I tried to get the little wheel to spin back and forth, and it would spin again for about 10 seconds or so, then it'd stop. So I left it submerged overnight, and the next day I tried to get it to go, and same thing, just about 10 seconds it'd run, that's it. So I ended up leaving it submerged for a couple of days, and it was a trip. I could get it to go, it wouldn't run very long, again, like maybe 10 seconds or so, but it would run underneath the alcohol while it was submerged. And so then I thought, okay, I'm going to pull it out of the alcohol and see if I can get it to run. It was still soaking wet. Same thing, it wouldn't run. And I noticed that dry oil I sprayed on there was not washing off with the alcohol. It's still on here. And I'm thinking, well, this isn't good. So I just left it out. And I just left it out and let it dry off, air dry. Alcohol dries pretty quick. And I gave it a little spin. And it's been running now for 2 weeks straight. It hasn't stopped. When I was having problems getting it to run, when I first bought it, I just gave it a couple winds because I didn't want to wind it too tight. And that's when it ran for like 24 hours. And then it stopped, and I thought, well, maybe it just needs to be wound up a little more. And I gave it a couple more winds, and I realized it was wound all the way up. And so that's not good, because if it ain't going to run when it's wound all the way up, then there's a problem. But when I pulled it out of the alcohol and let it dry off, I gave it a little jiggle and got it to go. And it's been running for now 2 weeks, because I've been sick. I haven't been able to work on it, so I just been having it sit here on my table in my galley, and it's been running nonstop. And the little hammer's been pounding away every half an hour, like for the bell, even though it's not hooked into the unit. So it's been running. Now I just noticed that as I pick it up and jiggle it around, it will stop running, and it's because I'm countering the little wheel spinning, me jiggling it around, throwing it off, and it just made it stop. Plus, it may now need to be wound up because it's been running for 2 weeks, and I haven't wound it, so I don't know how far wound down it is, and I don't know how often you have to wind these clocks. It depends on how old they are and what kind of shape the spring is in, but it's running. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back together, and I'm not going to oil it. I thought about oiling it, maybe getting some clock oil, but I found out that clock oil is a double-edged sword when it comes to clocks. Of course, you need to lubricate the parts because it's just metal rubbing against metal. But the problem is that the dust will stick to the oil, and it's the dust in the oil that wears the clock out. So go figure. So I have that dry oil that's still on here, and I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to mess with it. Things running, it's working. So I'm going to put it together, and I'm going to just let it set, again for another week or two, and see what it does before I mount it on my bulkhead, because I do not want to drill holes in my bulkhead and mount this clock if it's not going to continue to work. So I just want to make sure that it's definitely going to work. And so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put it back together and go from there and see what happens. So here's the face plate. I kept all the little screws and stuff, and the hands, the hour hand and the minute hand, and so now I just got to put them back together, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to start with getting this back into the case. And I got to make sure I get it in the right direction here. Now when I took this out, it was a little fidgety, so it's probably going to be a little fidgety going back in. So I'm just going to have to go really slow and be real careful. And just move it around till I can get it to go in. There it goes. It's going. Okay, that looks good. Okay, I got it into place. So now I got to get the screw holes and everything to line up. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to put the face plate on. This face plate. And it looks good. You don't want to really clean these things because you might wipe the numbers off of them. So you want to just, maybe just dust it off a little bit. Luckily this one's in really good shape, so I'm real happy with that. And then I'll take the screws and put the screws in. Okay, looks like I got everything lined up. So now I screws it down. I don't want to tighten them all the way tight until I get all three of them in. Okay, last screw. There's 3 screws. So I was having a little problem getting the holes to line up because I had 3 things that had to line up. But it looks like I got it. Okay, now I lightly tighten all 3. The trick to being a good mechanic is knowing not to over tighten stuff and damage things. Once you get that down, you'll probably be pretty good at what you do. There's that damn train. Every time I get going, it has to stick a stick in my spokes. Okay, so I got all 3 screws in now. And now I just need to put the hands on and make sure I get them right as far as with the bell. So the hour hand won't be a problem. Now the hour hand was kind of hard to take off, so I assume it's going to be difficult to put back on. And then just carefully push it down. There it goes, it's on, just popped on, and I can feel it go down. So that feels right. Okay, now I just got to put the minute hand, and then there's a little thing that screws on to hold it down. I think somebody had taken this clock apart and worked on it. This clock chimes at every 30 minutes. So at the 12 and at the 6. And I noticed before I took it apart that the minute hand was slightly, not right pointing straight up at the 12, but just a little bit past 12 when the chime would go off. And so what that tells me is someone took this apart, and when they got it back together, they didn't get it together perfect. They missed a gear or 2. So that's probably, I'll probably end up with the same thing here. Now, I kind of have an idea how I may be able to remedy that, but I'm not going to worry about it now. And how I would remedy that without taking this all apart would be seeing if I can, when I screw the little thing to hold this hand on, if I can just move it to where this needs to go, and then maybe that'll hold it down. But I don't know how much play there is. There has to be a little bit of play for me to do that. And so I'm not sure what that's going to entail. Now I'm going to have to adjust this minute hand until I get the clock to strike properly. Now at the 12, what I need to do for the first, when I finally get it set, is when it's 12 o'clock straight up, the chime should chime 8 times. When it chimes 8 times on the 12, and then that's indicating the stop or start of the next watch, because on boats, watches are every 4 hours. So that's why these clocks only chime from 1 to 8, and that's to count out 4 hours. So people know if it's time for their watch. So I got it to go down. Now I'm not gonna put the little holder on it yet. I'm gonna go ahead and spin it. And then I'm gonna take the minute hand and move it till it chimes 8, and the next chime should be 8 chimes. And then I'll put it on so both hands are pointing right to the 12, and it should be right. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now I just got to move the minute hand back. So I think I got it. I just got to get these on there now. Okay, it's going. I can't believe it. I think I got it. It's about 4 minutes now after the 12, and it chimed 8 times, which is correct. So now I'm going to just run it forward, and hopefully we'll see if it chimes perfectly on the 6. Okay, it should chime once. That's correct. And now it should chime 8 times when I get to the 12. And there's 8 times, and that's the end of the watch. One watch and the beginning of another watch. So there's 4 hours, and you can see it's 4 o'clock. So that's how the ship's bells work. So it counts out every 4 hours for your watchman to be on watch, so, or watch person. So looks like a success. It's been running for 2 weeks. Now I'm just going to let it run and just keep an eye on it and make sure it's working good before I go drilling holes in my teak bulkhead. I don't want to drill any holes in my teak if I can help it. I don't like drilling any holes in my boat, especially in teak. So yeah, so another happy ending it looks like. And I got my barometer working and I got my clock working now. And again, these things cost between, like, normally I'd pay between, anywhere from $200 a piece for just $200 for the clock to $400 for the clock to, like, say $200 for the barometer to $400 for the barometer. And I only paid $59, and with tax and shipping it was just under $75. So one hell of a deal. And so I'm really, really happy now. And the minute hand is still, the chime goes off a minute late, and there's a little play in the minute hand. I may be able to do something to get it closer to whether it be perfectly pointing at where it needs to be pointing. But a minute late on the minute hand is barely noticeable, so it's no big deal really. But I may try to go ahead and get it to be perfect. I like things to be perfect. I'm really bad about that. It drives me nuts. I know most people aren't that way, but I've been like that all my life. And if something ain't perfect, I hate it. But I can learn to live with it. So, because really, when it comes down to it, nothing or nobody's perfect. So, if you found this video to be helpful or entertaining, please like and subscribe.